The morning sun of Kepler 442b rose slowly over the mining colony, painting the sky in soft purple and orange colors. Zeftel walked to his communication station like he did every day for the past 3 years. The tall, blue-skinned Villani moved, with the calm grace that his people were known for throughout the galaxy. The mining colony was home to over 50,000 Villani workers and their families. They had come here to extract rare crystals from the planet's crust. These crystals powered starships and cities across many worlds. The Villani were good at this work because they were patient and careful. They never rushed, never fought, and never caused trouble. Zeftel sat at his desk and turned on the communication equipment. His job was to talk to the supply ships that came and went from their world. Today should have been like any other day. Supply ship captains would call in their arrival times. Workers would report their daily progress. Children in the schools would send messages to their friends on other worlds. But today was different. The first warning came from the Orbital Watch station. Commander Velna's voice crackled through the speakers. "Unknown ships approaching the system. Very large fleet. They are not responding to our signals." Zeftel frowned. The Villani rarely had visitors except for scheduled supply runs. He opened a channel to the orbital station. "How many ships, Commander?" "More than 200, came the reply. "They look like warships." A cold feeling spread through Zeftel's chest. The Villani had no enemies. They traded fairly with everyone, and never took sides in conflicts. Why would warships come to their peaceful world? Within an hour, the answer became clear. The ships belonged to the Thrakari Dominion. Zeftel had heard stories about them from traders and travelers. The Thrakari were large, reptilian creatures who believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. They conquered worlds and enslaved the people who lived there. The Thrakari fleet commander's face appeared on Zeftel's main screen. The creature's scaled face and yellow eyes made Zeftel step back in fear. When the Thrakari spoke, his voice was deep and threatening. "I am Admiral Vestan of the Thrakari Dominion. This world now belongs to us. You will surrender immediately and prepare to serve your new masters. Any resistance will be met with total destruction." Governor Ethemol, the leader of the colony, tried to negotiate. He appeared on the communication channel, his blue face calm despite the danger. "Admiral, we are a peaceful people. We have no weapons and no army. Surely there is no need for violence. We can discuss trade agreements or tribute payments." "Admiral," Vestan laughed, a harsh sound that made Zeftel's skin crawl. "You will give us everything we want, when we want it. Your choice is simple, surrender or die." The governor closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with sad acceptance. "We cannot fight you, but we also cannot surrender our people to slavery. We choose to remain free." "Then you choose death," the admiral replied. The communication ended, and within minutes, the bombardment began. Zeftel watched in horror as energy beams fell from the sky like deadly rain. The first targets were the planetary defense satellites, which were destroyed in seconds. These satellites had no weapons, only sensors and communication equipment, but the Thrakari destroyed them anyway. Next came the government buildings and the spaceport. Explosions lit up the horizon as the beautiful structures that had taken years to build were reduced to rubble in moments. The main hospital was hit, then the schools, then the housing complexes. People ran through the streets screaming. Parents carried children in their arms while looking for safe places to hide. But there was nowhere to go. The Thrakari ships covered the entire planet, and their weapons could reach anywhere. Zeftel's communication station shook as a nearby building was destroyed. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling. Emergency alarms rang throughout the colony. The smell of smoke and burning metal filled the air. "Zeftel!" Governor Ethemol's voice came through the emergency channel. "Can you send a distress signal to other worlds?" Zeftel checked his equipment. Most of the transmitters were damaged, but the emergency beacon was still working. "Yes, Governor, but it will not last long. The Thrakari are targeting all communication. Equipment. Send the signal now. Tell the galaxy what is happening here." Zeftel's hands moved quickly over the controls. He set the signal to broadcast on all emergency frequencies. His message would travel to every world within 100 light years. But would anyone listen? Would anyone care about a small mining colony on the edge of known space? He began to speak. This is mining colony Kepler 442b sending emergency distress. Signal. We are under attack by the Thrakari Dominion. 200 warships are bombing our cities. We are a peaceful people with no weapons and no defenses. We have committed no crimes and started no wars. If there is mercy in the galaxy, please help us. We have women and children here. They do not deserve to die for the greed of others. The building shook again as another bomb fell nearby. Zeftel could hear people crying and calling for help outside. He continued his message. To any who receive this signal, we are the Villani of Kepler 442b. We ask only for the chance to live in peace. We have valuable mining equipment and rare crystals that we will gladly trade for protection. Please, if any civilized species receives this message, we beg for your help. A massive explosion rocked the communications center. Half of Zeftel's equipment went dead. Sparks flew from broken circuits and the lights flickered. He could smell burning plastic and metal, but the emergency transmitter was still working. Our communication equipment is being destroyed, he said into the transmitter. This may be our last message. To whoever receives this, remember that the Villani people lived here. Remember that we tried to live in peace. Remember that we died calling for help that never came. Just as he finished speaking, a Thrakari bomb hit the communication center directly. The explosion threw Zeftel across the room. When he opened his eyes, everything was dark and filled with smoke. His equipment was destroyed and his message was cut off, but it was too late to stop the signal. Zeftel's desperate plea for help was already traveling through space at the speed of light. It reached relay stations and communication networks throughout the galaxy. Most species that received it ignored the message or filed it away with thousands of other distress calls that came in every day. But somewhere in the darkness of space, one species received the message and listened. They heard the fear in Zeftel's voice and the explosions in the background. They understood what it meant when innocent people called for help, and unlike the rest of the galaxy, they decided to do something about it. Zeftel crawled through the rubble of his communication center, looking for other survivors. Outside, the bombardment continued. The Thrakari were taking their time, destroying everything slowly to make the Villani suffer. They wanted other worlds to hear about this attack and fear the same fate, but they had made one mistake. In their cruelty, they had given one desperate communication officer enough time to send a message that would change everything. The signal traveled on through the void, carrying with it the last hope of a dying world. 3 days had passed since the Thrakari began their attack on Kepler 442b. The beautiful mining colony was now a burning wasteland. Most of the buildings were destroyed, and thousands of Villani lay dead in the streets. The survivors hid in underground, tunnels and caves, coming out only to search for food and water. Admiral Vestan stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the dying world below. The massive Thrakari was pleased with his work. His ships had turned a thriving colony into a lesson for other worlds. Soon news of this attack would spread throughout the galaxy. Other species would hear about it and surrender quickly when the Thrakari came for them. "Admiral," called his sensor officer, "we have a new contact dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system." Vestan turned his attention to the main screen. A single ship had appeared near the outer planets. It was smaller than his battleships, but bigger than a fighter. The design was strange, unlike any ship in the Thrakari database. "Only one ship?" Vestan laughed. "Some fool wants to play hero. What species is it?" "Unknown, Admiral. The ship. Design does not match any known race." "It does not matter. Order the nearest squadron to destroy it." But before the Thrakari ships could move, the unknown vessel sent a message. The voice that came through the speakers was calm and clear. Speaking perfect Thrakari language. "This is Captain Hyunwoo of the Terran Defense Force vessel Incheon. You will stop your attack on the civilian population immediately and withdraw from this system." The bridge fell silent. No one had ever spoken to Admiral Vestan like that, and lived. The Thrakari Admiral's eyes blazed with anger. "Terran, I have never heard of this species. Tell me, Captain Hyunwoo, how many ships do you have?" "Just this one, Admiral." Vestan and his officers burst into laughter. One ship against his entire fleet of 200 warships. This captain was either very brave or very stupid. "You amuse me, human," Vestan said. "I will give you one chance to run away. Leave now, and I will let you live to tell others what happens to those who interfere with the Thrakari Dominion." Captain Hyunwoo's voice remained steady. "I am not leaving without the survivors. You have 1 minute to begin evacuating your forces, or we will remove you by force." This time, Vestan did not laugh. The sheer audacity of this threat made his blood boil. "You dare threaten me! Destroy that ship immediately!" 20 Thrakari battleships turned toward the human vessel and opened fire. Energy beams and missiles flew through space, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But when the weapons reached their target, something impossible happened. The human ship moved. It did not just dodge the attacks like a normal ship would. It danced between the energy beams with grace and speed that should have been impossible for something that size. The ship spun and rolled through the weapons fire without being touched even once. Then it fired back. The human weapons were different from anything the Thrakari had seen. Instead of the bright energy beams that most species used, the human ship fired what looked like solid projectiles. But these projectiles moved faster than light and hit with the force of nuclear bombs. The first Thrakari battleship exploded before its crew even realized they were under attack. The second ship tried to raise its shields, but the human weapons went right through them as if they were not there. Within seconds, 5 Thrakari warships were destroyed. "Impossible!" Vestan roared. "How can one ship do this?" On the human vessel, Captain Hyunwoo sat calmly in his command chair. He was a young man with dark hair and serious eyes. He had grown up on Earth, where every day was a struggle to survive. The dangers that would terrify other species were just normal life for humans. "Soo-jin, target their weapon systems," he said to his tactical officer. "Taemin, prepare the railguns for continuous fire." Lieutenant Soo-jin was a small woman with quick fingers and sharp eyes. She had trained for this kind of battle since she was a child. Her computer showed her the weak points of every Thrakari ship. "Targets locked, Captain. I count 43 ships moving to intercept us." Commander Taemin was a big man with steady hands and a calm heart. He controlled the ship's weapons like a master artist. "Railguns ready, Captain. Missile tubes loaded with antimatter warheads." "Fire at will," Captain Hyunwoo ordered. The human ship became a storm of destruction. Its weapons fired so fast that they looked like solid beams of light. Every shot found its target with perfect accuracy. Thrakari shields, which had never been broken by enemy fire, collapsed under the human assault. Admiral Vestan watched in growing horror as his fleet was torn apart. His ships were exploding faster than he could count them. The human vessel moved through his formations like a shark through a school of fish. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Our shields are the strongest in the galaxy." His science officer was studying the sensor readings with confusion and fear. "Admiral, their weapons use principles we do not understand. They fire solid projectiles at incredible speeds, but they also use some kind of energy field that disrupts our shield generators. Can we stop them?" "I do not know, Admiral. Nothing in our database explains how this is possible." Vestan realized that his mighty fleet was losing to a single enemy ship. The thought filled him with rage and fear. He opened a channel to all his remaining vessels. "All ships converge on the human vessel. Overwhelm them with numbers." 150 Thrakari warships turned toward the Incheon and fired everything they had. The space around the human ship filled with weapons fire. Surely no ship could survive that much firepower, but the human ship not only survived, it seemed to get faster. Captain Hyunwoo smiled as his ship's advanced computer predicted where every enemy shot would go. The Incheon twisted through the attack like it was dancing. "Their tactics are too simple," he said to his crew. "They just point and shoot. No strategy, no coordination. Soo-jin, show them how humans fight." Lieutenant Soo-jin's fingers flew over her controls. The human ship launched a spread of missiles that split apart in flight. Each missile became 10 smaller missiles, and each of those became 10 more. Within seconds, thousands of small warheads were flying toward the Thrakari fleet. The Thrakari tried to shoot down the missiles, but there were too many. The small warheads slipped through their defenses and exploded against their hulls. The explosions were not big enough to destroy the ships, but they damaged their weapons and engines. While the Thrakari fleet was blind and crippled, the Incheon moved in for the kill. Commander Taemin fired the ship's main guns with surgical precision. Each shot destroyed exactly what it was aimed at, nothing more and nothing less. Admiral Vexathon realized that he was watching the destruction of his entire fleet. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being destroyed by a single enemy vessel. His officers looked at him with fear and confusion. They had never seen their admiral lose a battle before. "Sir," his communication officer said with a shaking voice, "we are receiving a transmission from the human ship." "Put it on screen," Vexthon growled. Captain Hyunwoo appeared on the screen again. His uniform was clean and his face was calm, as if he had just finished a routine patrol instead of destroying most of a fleet. "Admiral Vexthon, you have lost over 100 ships. Your remaining vessels are damaged and helpless. I am offering you one final chance to withdraw from this system and leave these people in peace." Vexthon wanted to refuse, but he looked around his bridge and saw the fear in his crew's eyes. His mighty Dominion fleet had been beaten by a single ship from an unknown species. If he continued this fight, he would lose everything. "This is not over, human," he said through clenched teeth. "The Thrakari Dominion will remember this insult." "I hope you do," Captain Hyunwoo replied, "because if you come back here, I will be waiting." The surviving Thrakari ships limped away from the Kepler system, leaving behind the wreckage of their once mighty fleet. As they disappeared into hyperspace, more human ships began to arrive. Not just one or two, but dozens of them. Admiral Vexthon realized with growing dread that he had not fought the entire human fleet. He had fought just one ship, and it had destroyed him completely. On the surface of Kepler 442b, the surviving Villani looked up at the sky and saw the explosions of battle. They did not know who was fighting the Thrakari, but they dared to hope that someone had answered their desperate call for help. As the last Thrakari ships fled from the Kepler system, more human vessels continued to arrive through hyperspace. The surviving Villani watched from their hiding places as dozens of strange ships filled the space above their world. These ships looked different from anything they had ever seen. They were sleek and deadly, like metal predators built for war. On the surface of Kepler 442b, Zeftel crawled out from the ruins of his communication center. His blue skin was covered with dust and dried blood, but he was alive. Around him, other Villani survivors emerged from their hiding places. They looked up at the sky with confusion and hope. The human ships did not attack the planet. Instead, they sent down small landing craft toward the surface. The Villani had never seen these beings before, but their distress signal had been answered by someone. The first human dropship landed in what used to be the colony's main square. The Villani survivors gathered at a safe distance, afraid but curious. When the ship's door opened, the beings that came out were unlike any species in the galaxy. They were shorter than most galactic races, with smooth skin and hair on their heads. They moved with purpose and confidence, carrying weapons and medical supplies. Their eyes scanned the area constantly, looking for threats and for people who needed help. Staff Sergeant Ji Hai stepped off the dropship and immediately took charge of the situation. She was a young woman with sharp eyes and quick movements. She had trained for rescue operations like this on Earth, where disasters happened every day. To her, this was just another job that needed to be done. "Medical team, set up triage over there," she ordered, pointing to a clear area near the ruins. "Security team, establish a perimeter. Engineering team, start checking for survivors in the wreckage." The Villani watched in amazement as the humans worked. They moved with coordination and efficiency that seemed impossible. Each person knew exactly what to do without being told. They worked together like parts of a single machine. Master Sergeant Dong Hyun led his squad toward a collapsed building where Villani voices could be heard calling for help. He was a big man with strong arms and gentle hands. He had grown up in the mountains of Earth, where avalanches and earthquakes were common dangers. "Careful with that beam," he told his soldiers as they cleared debris. "The whole structure could come down." The humans used small tools to cut through twisted metal and broken concrete. They worked slowly and carefully, making sure not to hurt anyone trapped inside. When they finally reached the trapped Villani, the aliens looked at their rescuers with wonder and fear. The humans were clearly predators, with forward-facing eyes and strong muscles, but they handled the injured Villani with surprising gentleness. Dr. Youngsuk set up her medical station in the remains of the colony's hospital. She was a kind woman with skilled hands and a warm smile. She had studied alien biology for years, preparing for the day when humans would meet other species in space. The first Vellani patient was brought to her by 2 human soldiers. The alien had a broken leg and burns on his arms. Dr. Youngsuk smiled at him and spoke in the Vellani language, which she had learned from their transmissions. "Do not be afraid," she said gently. "I am here to help you feel better." The Vellani's eyes went wide with surprise. "You speak our language? How is this possible?" "We learned it from your radio signals," Dr. Youngsuk explained as she examined his injuries. "We have been listening to your broadcasts for several months. We wanted to understand your people before we made contact." She pulled out medical tools that the Vellani had never seen before. Her scanner could see inside his body without cutting him open. Her healing device could mend broken bones in minutes instead of weeks. Her medicine could stop pain and fight infection better than anything in the Vellani's hospitals. "Your technology is incredible," the injured Vellani said as he watched his leg heal. "How did your people develop such advanced medicine?" Dr. Youngsuk's smile became sad. "On our world, people get hurt every day. We had to learn how to fix them quickly, or they would die. Our planet taught us to be good at healing because it was so good at causing harm. Meanwhile, other human teams spread out across the colony, looking for more survivors. They found Vellani trapped in underground shelters, hiding in caves, and buried under collapsed buildings. Each time, the humans worked tirelessly to rescue them." The Vellani began to realize that these strange beings were not like other species they had met. Most galactic races were careful and slow, taking time to consider every decision. The humans acted quickly and decisively, as if they were used to emergencies. Zeftel finally gathered the courage to approach one of the human soldiers. The being was checking for survivors near the ruins of the communication center. When he saw Zeftel, he immediately stopped what he was doing. "Are you injured?" the human asked in perfect Vellani. "Do you need medical attention?" "I am Zeftel," the communication officer replied. "I sent the distress signal 3 days ago. I did not think anyone would come." The human soldier smiled. "I am Corporal Jae-sung. We received your message and came as fast as we could. Captain Yanwoo wanted me to tell you that your signal saved many lives today." "But how did you arrive so quickly? Our signal only traveled for 3 days. Most species take weeks to organize a rescue mission." Corporal Jae-sung looked puzzled by the question. "Why would we wait? People were dying. We came immediately." This simple answer shocked Zeftel more than all the advanced technology he had seen. The humans had dropped everything to help strangers on the other side of the galaxy. They had risked their lives for people they had never met. As the day continued, more human ships arrived with supplies and equipment. They brought food, water, medicine, and materials to rebuild the colony. But more importantly, they brought hope. The news of what happened at Kepler 442b spread quickly through the galaxy. The Thrakari survivors told their story to anyone who would listen. A single human ship had destroyed most of their fleet. These new beings fought with technology and tactics that seemed impossible. Other species began to ask questions. Who were these humans? Where did they come from? How had they become so powerful without anyone noticing? The answers came from the humans themselves. They spoke openly about their home world, a planet they called Earth. They described a world where everything was dangerous. The weather could kill with storms, floods, and freezing cold. The ground could shake and crack open without warning. Wild animals hunted each other constantly, and only the strongest survived. On such a world, the humans explained, intelligence was not enough. They needed to be fast, strong, and adaptable. They needed to work together or die alone. They needed to make quick decisions and take bold action. The galaxy had never seen a species like this. Most civilized races had evolved on peaceful worlds where cooperation was easy and conflict was rare. They had developed advanced science and philosophy, but they had never learned to fight for their lives every day. The humans were different. They were warriors and healers, builders and destroyers, all at the same time. They could create beautiful art and terrible weapons with equal skill. They could show great kindness to their friends and great cruelty to their enemies. But most shocking of all was how young they were as a spacefaring species. The humans revealed that they had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. In that short time, they had explored dozens of star systems and built colonies on many worlds. What took other species thousands of years to accomplish, the humans had done in decades. They learned fast, adapted quickly, and never gave up in the face of obstacles. As night fell on Kepler 442b, the human rescue teams continued their work. They had saved over 30,000 Volani lives and were still searching for more survivors. Their ships orbited the planet like protective guardians, ready to fight if the Thrakari returned. Zeftel sat by a campfire with Dr. Youngsuk and several other humans. They shared food and told stories about their worlds. The Volani was amazed by tales of Earth's dangerous beauty and humanity's struggle to survive. "Why did you come to help us?" he asked. "You do not know us. We cannot offer you anything in return." Dr. Youngsuk looked into the fire and thought for a moment. "On our world, we have a saying. When someone calls for help, you answer. It does not matter who they are or what they can give you. If someone needs help and you can provide it, then you must act. But that could be very dangerous. What if it is a trap? What if the person asking for help is your enemy?" "Then we deal with that when it happens," Dr. Youngsuk replied with a smile. "We have learned that the risk of helping someone is usually smaller than the cost of doing nothing." As Zeftel looked around at the human rescue teams working through the night, he realized that the galaxy had changed forever. These beings from the distant world called Earth had shown that there was another way to live among the stars. The age of the Thrakari Dominion and other tyrants was ending. The age of humanity was about to begin. News of the Kepler incident traveled faster than light across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, beings gathered around communication screens to hear the impossible story. A single ship from an unknown species had destroyed most of a Thrakari fleet and rescued the Volani survivors. The Galactic Council called an emergency session on the neutral station Concordia Prime. Representatives from 50 different species gathered in the Great Assembly Hall to discuss this new development. Never before had the galaxy seen such advanced military technology combined with humanitarian action. Council Representative Kethvar of the ancient Ashiri called the meeting to order. The Ashiri were one of the oldest spacefaring races, with blue skin and large eyes that held the wisdom of 10,000 years. They had seen empires rise and fall, but they had never seen anything like this. "Fellow representatives," Kethvar began, "we face a situation that requires our immediate attention. These beings who call themselves humans have demonstrated capabilities that challenge our understanding of what is possible. We must learn who they are and what they want." Representative Morden of the Corvani Empire stood up to speak. The Corvani were a proud race of tall, golden-skinned beings who believed they were superior to all other species. They controlled dozens of worlds through military might and political manipulation. "These humans are clearly a threat," Morden declared. "They possess weapons technology far beyond our own, and they have shown that they are willing to use it. We must act to contain this threat before they decide to conquer our worlds." "But they rescued innocent civilians," protested Representative Yelna of the peaceful Nethri Coalition. "They could have demanded tribute or enslaved the Volani, but instead they helped them. Perhaps they are potential allies, not enemies." Debate continued for hours. Some representatives feared the humans and wanted to unite against them. Others saw them as potential protectors against threats like the Thrakari. All of them wanted answers to the same questions. Who were these humans? Where did they come from? What did they want? The answer came sooner than expected. 3 days after the emergency session began, a human ship arrived at Concordia Prime. The vessel was smaller than a battleship, but clearly built for war. It moved with the same graceful precision that had destroyed the Thrakari fleet. Captain Yunwu requested permission to address the Galactic Council. He was accompanied by Ambassador Yunji, a diplomatic specialist who had studied galactic politics, and Admiral So Young, the commander of the human fleet in this sector. When the 3 humans entered the assembly hall, a strange silence fell over the gathering. The representatives had expected aliens that looked different from any known species. Instead, they saw beings that looked almost familiar, yet moved with a confidence and alertness that set them apart. Captain Yunwoo stepped forward to address the council. He was a young man with calm eyes and a steady voice. He had grown up on Earth during the resource wars, when different nations fought over water and food. He understood conflict and diplomacy equally well. "Honored representatives," he began, "I am Captain Hyun-woo of the Terran Defense Force. We come in peace, seeking friendship and cooperation with all civilized species." Representative Kethvar leaned forward in his chair. "Captain, we are grateful that you accepted our invitation. The galaxy has many questions about your people. Perhaps you could start by telling us about your homeworld." "Certainly," Captain Hyun-woo replied. "We come from a planet called Earth, located in what you call Sector 7. Our world is difficult to live on." Ambassador Yun-ji activated a holographic display that showed images of Earth. The representatives gasped as they saw scenes of violent storms, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and massive hurricanes. They watched predatory animals hunting other creatures with deadly efficiency. "Your planet looks very dangerous," Representative Yelna said with concern. "How did your people survive in such conditions?" "We adapted," Admiral So Young answered. She was an older woman with silver hair and scars on her hands from old battles. "On Earth, only the strong and smart survive. We learn to work together, to think quickly, and to never give up." Engineer Minho stepped forward with another display. He was a quiet man with skillful hands who had designed many of humanity's advanced technologies. "The dangers of our world forced us to develop better tools and weapons. When earthquakes destroyed our buildings, we learned to build stronger ones. When diseases killed our people, we developed better medicine. When wars threatened our survival, we created more effective defenses." The representatives studied the human technology with amazement and fear. The humans showed them medical devices that could heal injuries in minutes, construction tools that could build cities in weeks, and weapons that could destroy fleets in hours. "How long did it take your people to develop this technology?" asked Representative Torval of the Scientific Zephyrian Collective. "About 10,000 years from our first civilizations to spaceflight," Combat Specialist Hei-Wan replied. She was a stern woman with sharp eyes who had fought in more battles than she could count. "But we have only had faster-than-light travel for 50 years. A shocked murmur ran through the assembly. Most species took tens of thousands of years to develop space travel, and many more thousands to achieve interstellar flight. The humans had compressed millennia of development into decades. "Impossible," Representative Morden said with disbelief. "No species can advance that quickly." Historian Wan Six smiled sadly. "On our world, advancement was not a choice. It was survival. Every generation faced disasters that could destroy our entire civilization. We learned fast because the alternative was extinction." "But how did you maintain peace during such rapid development?" asked Representative Kethavar. The humans looked at each other with expressions of sadness and regret. Captain Hyunwoo answered slowly. "We did not maintain peace. We fought many wars. Millions of people died because we could not learn to cooperate quickly enough. But those wars also taught us valuable lessons about the cost of conflict." Admiral So Young added, "We learned that working together is always better than fighting alone. We learned that protecting the innocent is more important than conquering enemies. We learned that strength without compassion is just cruelty." The representatives asked many more questions. They wanted to know about human society, human values, and human intentions. The answers they received were both reassuring and terrifying. Humans described a species that valued individual freedom but understood the need for cooperation. They were willing to fight to protect their beliefs, but they preferred to solve problems through negotiation. They had the power to conquer the galaxy, but they chose to defend those who could not defend themselves. "What do you want from us?" Representative Morden asked directly. Ambassador Yunji answered with calm sincerity. "We want to trade knowledge and resources. We want to learn from your cultures and share our discoveries. We want to help those who need help and protect those who cannot protect themselves. We want to be part of a galaxy where all species can live in peace." "And if we refuse your friendship?" Morden pressed. Captain Hyunwoo's expression remained calm, but his voice carried a note of steel. Then we will leave you alone. But we will not allow you to harm innocent people. If you attack peaceful worlds like the Thrakari did, we will stop you." The threat was clear, but it was delivered without anger or malice. The humans were not seeking conquest or domination. They were drawing a line and making it clear that they would defend anyone who crossed it. Representative Kethvar called for a recess so the council could discuss what they had learned. As the humans left the assembly hall, the representatives began arguing among themselves. Some saw the humans as potential allies who could bring peace to the galaxy. Others viewed them as dangerous predators who would eventually turn on their friends. A few believed that humanity should be destroyed before they became too powerful to stop. But one thing was clear to everyone: the galaxy would never be the same. The arrival of humanity had changed the balance of power forever. The old rules no longer applied, and new ones would have to be written. In their quarters on Concordia Prime, the human delegation discussed their own concerns. They knew that some species would try to become their allies for protection, while others would unite against them out of fear. "How do you think this will end?" Ambassador Yun-ji asked Captain Hyun-woo. The captain looked out at the stars through his window. "The same way it always ends on Earth. The strong will try to dominate the weak, and we will have to decide whether to stop them or let it happen." "And what will we decide?" Captain Hyun-woo smiled grimly. "We will do what we have always done. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves, even if it means fighting the entire galaxy." Outside, the representatives continued their debates. But the questions had been answered, and the lines had been drawn. The age of human involvement in galactic affairs had begun, whether the galaxy was ready for it or not. The debates on Concordia Prime continued for weeks after the human delegation departed. The galaxy was divided into three groups: those who wanted to ally with humanity, those who feared them, and those who wanted to destroy them before they became too dangerous. The Villani, grateful for their rescue, immediately offered to join a human alliance. The peaceful Nethri coalition and several smaller species followed their example. They had suffered under the attacks of aggressive empires for centuries, and they saw humanity as their salvation. But the powerful Corvani Empire had different plans. Chancellor Morden returned to his homeworld and immediately began organizing a military alliance against the humans. He convinced several aggressive species that humanity posed an existential threat to the established order. "These deathworlders are predators," he told his war council. "They pretend to come in peace, but their very nature makes them conquerors. Today they rescue the Villani, tomorrow they will enslave us all. We must strike before they grow stronger." The Thrakari Dominion, humiliated by their defeat at Kepler, eagerly joined the alliance. Admiral Vestan had been stripped of his rank for losing to a single human ship, but he burned with desire for revenge. Other military powers, including the hegemony of worlds and the Iron Claw Federation, added their fleets to the growing armada. Meanwhile, humanity continued its peaceful expansion. Human colonies were established on dozens of worlds, always with the permission of local governments. Trade agreements were signed with friendly species. Medical and technological aid was provided to anyone who requested it. But the humans were not naive. Admiral So Young knew that conflict was inevitable. She had studied the history of Earth's nations, and she understood how fear could drive civilizations to war. Human military bases were built in strategic locations, and the Terran Defense Force was quietly expanded. The crisis came when the Corvani Alliance decided to test human resolve. They chose the human colony world of New Sol as their target. The planet was home to 50,000 human settlers, and was defended by only a small garrison. Chancellor Morden assembled a fleet of 500 warships from 6 different species. He believed that overwhelming numbers would compensate for any technological advantages the humans might possess. The combined fleet was the largest military force assembled in galactic history. "We will show the galaxy that these humans are not invincible," Morden declared to his allies. "When New Sol falls, other species will see that humanity can be defeated." The attack began at dawn on New Sol. The colonists watched in terror as hundreds of enemy ships appeared in their sky. Emergency sirens wailed across the planet as families ran for underground shelters. But this time, the humans were ready. Admiral Su Jin commanded the defense of New Seoul from her flagship, the battleship Busan. She was a brilliant strategist who had studied every major battle in Earth's history. She understood that sometimes the best defense was a devastating attack. "All ships, this is Admiral Su Jin," she broadcast to her fleet. "The enemy has come to our home with the intention of destroying innocent people. We will show them why that was a mistake." The human defense fleet numbered only 50 ships against the enemy's 500. But these ships were crewed by veterans of the resource wars and commanded by officers who had grown up fighting for survival on humanity's dangerous home world. The battle began when the alien alliance opened fire on New Seoul's orbital stations. But instead of the easy victory they expected, they found themselves facing an enemy that fought with tactical brilliance and terrifying efficiency. Admiral Su Jin divided her fleet into small groups that attacked from multiple directions. Each group struck quickly at weak points in the enemy formation, then disappeared before the aliens could respond. The humans used the asteroid belt around New Seoul to hide their ships and launch surprise attacks. Commander Park led a squadron of destroyers in a daring assault on the enemy flagship. His ships emerged from behind a large asteroid and unleashed a devastating barrage of railgun fire. The Corvani command ship was crippled before its crew could react. Lieutenant Commander Lee used her stealth frigate to penetrate deep into the enemy formation. She targeted the communication ships that coordinated the alien fleet. Without their command structure, the Alliance ships began firing on each other by mistake. Captain Kim's heavy cruiser engaged a formation of 20 Thrakari battleships. His ship danced between their weapons fire while systematically destroying them one by one. The Thrakari, who had once been feared across the galaxy, fled in panic when they realized they were fighting the same humans who had humiliated them at Kepler. The most spectacular moment came when Major Choi led a fighter squadron against a massive hegemony dreadnought. The enemy ship was 10 times larger than any human vessel, but it was slow and poorly defended against small, fast targets. The human fighters swarmed around it like angry insects, targeting its weapon systems and engines with precision strikes. Within 6 hours, the battle was over. The mighty Alliance fleet had been shattered by a force 1/10 its size. Hundreds of alien ships were destroyed or disabled, while the humans lost only 3 vessels. The survivors fled from the New Seoul system, carrying news of their devastating defeat. Chancellor Morden watched the destruction of his fleet from his command ship's bridge. He could not believe what he was seeing. His carefully planned assault had become a complete disaster. The humans fought with a combination of technology and tactics that seemed impossible to counter. "How can they do this?" he asked his tactical officer. "We outnumbered them 10 to 1. The officer studied his readings with confusion and fear. "Sir, they fight like nothing we have ever seen. They coordinate perfectly, they adapt instantly to changing conditions, and they never hesitate to take risks that would terrify our crews." Morden realized that he had made a terrible mistake. The humans were not just another species with advanced technology. They were something new and dangerous, forged by a world that had taught them to be the ultimate survivors. As his ship limped away from the battle zone, Morden received a communication from Admiral Su Jin. The human commander appeared on his screen with a calm expression that somehow made her more frightening than any threat. "Chancellor Morden," she said in perfect Corvani, "you came here to destroy innocent people and conquer human worlds. You have failed. If you attempt anything like this again, the consequences will be much more severe." "This is not over, human," Morden replied through gritted teeth. "The galaxy will not bow to your species." Admiral Su Jin smiled coldly. "The galaxy does not need to bow to us, Chancellor. It simply needs to stop attacking innocent people. If your empire can learn to do that, we can coexist peacefully. If not, then we will continue to stop you every time you try." The communication ended, leaving Morden to contemplate his defeat. His alliance was broken, his fleet was destroyed, and his reputation was ruined. Worse yet, the humans had proven that they could defend themselves against any threat. News of the Battle of New Seoul spread quickly across the galaxy. Species that had been considering joining the anti-human alliance quickly changed their minds. Others began requesting human protection from aggressive neighbors. The balance of power had shifted permanently. The old empires built on military conquest and exploitation found themselves facing an enemy they could not defeat. The humans offered a simple choice: live in peace or face the consequences of aggression. But Admiral Sujin knew that this victory was only the beginning. Earth's history had taught her that fear and hatred could drive people to desperate actions. The defeated empires would not simply accept their new limitations. They would look for new ways to fight, new allies to recruit, and new strategies to employ. In her private quarters aboard the Busan, Admiral Sujin studied star charts showing the locations of human colonies and allied worlds. Each point of light represented millions of people depending on humanity for protection. The responsibility was enormous, but it was one that humans had accepted willingly. "We came to the stars looking for a better life," she said to her aide, Lieutenant Yoon. "Instead, we found a galaxy full of people who needed our help. I suppose some things never change." Lieutenant Yoon nodded thoughtfully. "Do you think we can really bring peace to the galaxy, Admiral?" Admiral Sujin looked out at the stars through her cabin window. "We can try, Lieutenant, and if Earth taught us anything, it is that trying is often enough." The choice had been made. Humanity would stand as guardians of the innocent, protectors of the weak, and enemies of those who chose conquest over cooperation. The galaxy would learn to live with this new reality, whether it wanted to or not. 6 months had passed since the Battle of New Sol shook the galaxy to its foundation. The old order of powerful empires dominating weaker species was crumbling like ancient stone. In its place, something new was growing, built on principles that the galaxy had never seen before. The mining world of Kepler 442b, where this story began, had become a symbol of the new age. The Vellani colony was no longer just a mining operation hidden on the edge of space. It had grown into a thriving hub where different species worked together as equals. Zeftel stood in the new communication center, watching ships from a dozen different worlds arrive and depart. Vellani miners worked alongside human engineers. Nethri scientists shared research with Ashiri scholars. Even some former Thrakari soldiers, tired of their empire's endless wars, had come seeking honest work and peaceful lives. The building around him was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Human construction techniques had made it strong enough to survive orbital bombardment, while Vellani crystal technology powered its systems with clean energy. Ashiri architects had designed it to be beautiful as well as functional. "Amazing how much can change in 6 months," said a familiar voice behind him. Zeftel turned to see Captain Hyun-woo, now promoted to Admiral, entering the communication center. The human officer looked older but more relaxed than when they first met during the Thrakari attack. "Admiral Hyun-woo," Zeftel said with genuine warmth. "I did not expect to see you again so soon. Is there trouble somewhere?" "No trouble today," the Admiral replied with a smile. "I came to check on the progress here and to thank you again." "Thank me? For what?" "For sending that distress signal 6 months ago. If you had not been brave enough to call for help, we might never have known about the Thrakari attacks. Your message changed everything." Zeftel looked around at the bustling activity in his communication center. Ships from the Human Protection Accords were coordinating rescue missions, trade agreements, and scientific exchanges. The building had become the heart of a new kind of galactic civilization. "I never imagined that a simple cry for help would lead to all this," he said softly. Across the galaxy, the Human Protection Accords had grown from a desperate alliance into a powerful force for peace. Any species that requested protection received it, but the humans offered something even more valuable: knowledge and cooperation. Dr. Youngsuk had established medical training centers on 50 worlds, teaching alien doctors how to use advanced healing techniques. Human medicine, developed on a world where injuries were common and resources were scarce, proved remarkably effective for other species as well. Engineer Minho led teams that helped struggling colonies develop sustainable technology. The humans shared their construction techniques, energy systems, and manufacturing processes freely. They asked for nothing in return except that the knowledge be used to help others. But the greatest change was in how different species began to see each other. The old galaxy had been divided by fear and suspicion. Strong species conquered weak ones, while weak species lived in constant terror of attack. The humans had shown that there was another way. On the industrial world of Corvin Prime, former slaves worked as free citizens for the first time in generations. The Corvani Empire, weakened by its defeat at New Sol, could no longer maintain control over its conquered territories. One by one, the subjugated worlds declared their independence under human protection. Chancellor Morden had been removed from power by his own people, who blamed him for the disastrous war with humanity. The new Corvani government, led by moderate politicians, had begun negotiations to join the Protection Accords. Even the mighty Thrakari Dominion was changing. Admiral Vestan, the officer who had attacked Kepler 442b, had been captured during a raid on a human convoy. Instead of executing him, the humans had sent him to a rehabilitation center where former warriors learned to live peaceful lives. The process was not easy. Vestan struggled with the idea that strength could be used to protect rather than conquer. But slowly, with patient teaching from human counselors and former Thrakari, who had already changed, he began to understand. "Why do you help us?" he asked Dr. Youngsuk during one of his therapy sessions. "We tried to destroy you. We killed your friends. Why do you want us to become better?" Dr. Youngsuk looked at the large reptilian warrior with compassion. "Because we believe that everyone can change if they choose to. On our world, we learned that former enemies can become the strongest allies. We learned that fighting is sometimes necessary, but peace is always better. Not everyone accepted the new order willingly. Some species retreated to distant systems, maintaining their old ways in isolation. Others formed underground movements dedicated to destroying human influence. But these groups found little support among people who had experienced the benefits of cooperation. The most dramatic change came in the area of scientific research. Human scientists, working with their alien colleagues, made discoveries that revolutionized galactic civilization. The combination of human innovation and alien knowledge produced advances that neither group could have achieved alone. Historian Wan Sik established the Galactic Archive on Earth, where the history and culture of every known species was preserved and studied. For the first time, different races began to truly understand each other's perspectives and motivations. "Knowledge is the foundation of peace," Wan Sik explained to a gathering of alien historians. "When people understand each other's stories, they find it harder to hate each other." The military changes were equally significant. The old galaxy had been dominated by massive fleets designed to conquer and terrorize. The new order emphasized smaller, more flexible forces focused on protection and peacekeeping. Admiral Sujin, now the commander of all human military forces, worked with allied species to develop new tactical doctrines. The emphasis was on ending conflicts quickly with minimal casualties on all sides. "Our goal is not to win wars," she told her officers. "Our goal is to prevent wars from happening in the first place. But when we must fight, we fight to protect the innocent, not to conquer territory." The economic transformation was perhaps the most profound. The old system had been based on exploitation, with powerful species taking resources from weaker ones. The new system emphasized fair trade and mutual benefit. Human colonies produced advanced technology and manufactured goods, which they traded for raw materials and unique products from other worlds. But unlike the old empires, the humans insisted on fair prices and humane working conditions. Ambassador Yun-ji had established trade regulations that protected workers' rights and environmental standards throughout human-controlled space. Other species, seeing the prosperity this created, began adopting similar policies. As the first anniversary of the Kepler incident approached, Admiral Hyun-woo received reports from across the galaxy. Crime rates were falling on worlds under human protection. Trade volume had increased by 300%. Most importantly, there had been no major wars in 6 months, the longest period of galactic peace in recorded history. But the Admiral knew that this peace was fragile. There were still hostile forces in the galaxy, and new threats could emerge at any time. Humanity had accepted the responsibility of protecting innocent people, and that responsibility would never end. The test came sooner than expected. A distress signal arrived from the far edge of the galaxy, beyond the borders of known space. An unknown species was under attack by mechanical creatures that seemed to devour entire worlds. Admiral Hyun-woo studied the desperate message with his senior staff. The signal was weak and distorted, but the fear in the alien voice was unmistakable. Somewhere in the darkness, people were dying and calling for help. "It could be a trap," warned Admiral Sujin. "We know nothing about this species or their attackers. We could be flying into an ambush. It could also be genuine, replied Dr. Youngsuk. If there are people out there who need our help, we cannot ignore them. Admiral Hyun-woo looked around the table at his officers. These men and women had grown up on a world where helping others was a fundamental value. They understood the risks, but they also understood their duty. Prepare the fleet, he ordered. We go immediately. Sir? Asked Captain Kim. What should we tell the crew about the mission? Admiral Hyun-woo smiled, remembering the words that Corporal Jae-sung had spoken to Zeftel 6 months ago. Tell them that someone called for help and we are going to answer. Because that is what humans do. The human fleet departed within hours, heading toward the unknown regions of space where new dangers and new friends might be waiting. Behind them, they left a galaxy that was slowly learning to live in peace. On Kepler 442b, Zeftel watched the human ships disappear into hyperspace. He returned to his communication station where messages from across the galaxy continued to arrive. Trade requests, scientific collaborations, cultural exchanges, and occasionally, distress signals from people who needed help. Each message represented hope for a better future. Each signal carried the promise that no one would face danger alone. The foundation of a new galactic civilization had been laid, built on the simple idea that when someone calls for help, others should answer. The age of empires was ending. The age of cooperation had begun. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the signal that started it all.